Rivers State High Court has struck out a case filed by lawyer Williams Stanley challenging the legality of the August 30 local government elections. Stanley has sued President Bola Tinubu, the Attorney General of the Federation, and RISEC, and its chairman, questioning the appointments of the Commission's officials. Justice Stephen Jumbo ruled that the claimant lacked locus standi, explaining he failed to prove any personal injury or civil rights violation. The judge further held that only the Supreme Court has the jurisdiction to hear such matters during emergency rule. The court also affirmed the elections as constitutional and legitimate, noting RISEC, not the governor or sole administrator, conducted them. While the claimant's lawyer indicated plans to appeal, counsel for the PDP welcomed the judgment as consistent with the law. Interesting one.
It was a moment of laughter yesterday, when I was listening to the declaration of the judge.
Yes.
I just folded my hand and said, I'm not a lawyer. And when the lawyers and judges come to give their verdict, sometimes we'll just see that we're helpless. Justice Stephen Jumbo that postponed the case of Emeka Beke and the Tony Okocha faction against the RISEC is the same that is declaring that it's the only Supreme Court that has jurisdiction.
There is a difference between the two matters.
Yes, I know there is a difference, but I'm just telling you the point where I was looking at it. Okay. As at the time I was listening to the judgment. So I now felt if he can handle this one based on the fact that it has to do with the state, and this one now, he said it is Supreme Court because the claimant
president
included the president. And you see that even the appointment of the sole administrator, which Boyomi Williams said that does not have right to conduct, was by the President and National Assembly.
No, hold on. Let me explain that. Now, recall that he is questioning the sole administrator's locus to conduct elections.
Yeah.
Now, recall that there is a matter questioning the locus of the president to appoint a sole administrator in Rivers State. And that matter was taken to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Correct? Now, when it was taken to the Supreme Court, you find out that at the end of the day, the Supreme Court has not heard that matter. And because the Supreme Court has not heard that matter, it is common sense to say that matters pertaining to the emergency rule can only be heard by Supreme Court. It cannot be domiciled as Supreme Court and then a state high court
will begin to give judgment.
It's not possible.
That's the point where I told you that when I look at the two, I discovered that this one was dealing with state level of the Bruha. But this one now had involved the national. And to a large extent, Mr. President and the governors are still in court.
Over the
emergency rule. So if this state high court should give a judgment in favor or against, where will it stand? If at the end of the day, Supreme Court come to say, President has rights to do what he did, then what else will you drag?
The Supreme Court cannot entertain a matter that is already before the High Court.
That's what I'm saying. That's where Justice Stephen had to pull off his head. And he made it very, very clear that the sole administrator didn't conduct the election. That was
another point. And sole administrator did not conduct it. Was the RISEC.
And the appointment of RISEC chairman
was done by the president.
Was authenticated
by the National Assembly. That's in line with the Constitution in this instance. Because when there is state of emergency, National Assembly legislates for the state.
For the state,
so it was the National Assembly that legislated for Rivers State and ratified the appointments of the RISEC chairman, as it were.
Which we believe that in that case, if there is any matter that needed to go to the legislators for interpretation and all that, RISEC will go to National Assembly. You see to that. So whatever they are doing it with the backing of the National Assembly. So if Justice Stephen had come to say this, like when I told you, when I listened to the two matters yesterday, I laughed myself to stupor. I said, these things are just there. And when they come, there are people who have more insight to this, especially those who have, in one way or the other, gotten a deeper knowledge of law practice, who are the lawyers? They can give a better insight to this. But to me as a layman, I received it from that angle. I analyzed it too, and I laughed. I said, well, the judge he knows more than we do as laymen. Because I will never accept that I know what I don't know.
The question now would be, did the sole administrator conduct local government elections?
The judge has said that he did not.
Wait, hold on. Who discharged the electoral materials, both sensitive and non-sensitive?
It's RISEC.
Who oversaw the elections, the logistics and all?
RISEC.
Who collated the results?
RISEC.
Who announced the results?
RISEC.
So one would say RISEC conducted the election.
And handed the winners of the election to the governor.
So
to the sole administrator.
Who inaugurated them?
Who is administering the government of Rivers State on behalf of Mr. President by the backing of the National Assembly.
So probably the argument would have been, what locus does the sole administrator have to inaugurate elected chairman?
No, that's what I tried to
The judge would have pushed it back to Supreme Court because the issue of emergency rule is in the Supreme Court.
The sole administrator is simply standing in for Mr. President.
And Mr. President is facing litigation over the emergency rule.
Yes.
And the litigation is in Supreme Court.
That is why, see, you know...
Do you understand where I'm headed to with this?
From my viewpoint, except if there is any other reason you have.
No,
at the back of your
I'm
mind.
just looking at the judgment and how it will be very difficult to pursue litigation in this local government election until Supreme Court gives judgment, you know, between the PDP governors and the president over the state of emergency in Rivers State. Because if we are to go by the judgment of Justice Jumbo is saying the sole administrator did not conduct elections.
Yes.
And when you break it down, the sole administrator did not conduct elections. And Michael Ode, the RISEC chairman, had the right, the locus, to conduct that election as RISEC chairman because he was ratified by the National Assembly in line with the Constitution when there is emergency rule. However, if one wants to pursue this matter now, let's just say we adopt the judgment of Justice Stephen Jumbo that the RISEC conducted the elections and not the sole administrator, right? So if RISEC conducted elections, then it is well within their constitutional powers to conduct elections, right? So now the argument will be, why did the sole administrator inaugurate the elected chairman? Which brings up another argument. So the state high court will say, or even the federal high court, or even the appeal court in this instance will say that they do not have the jurisdiction to entertain that matter.
To question the authenticity of the sole administrator.
Yes, because the matter is before the Supreme Court. So, which means whatever matter that will arise as a result of the sole administrator inaugurating the local government chairman will have to wait until Supreme Court
decides on the matter,
gives judgment on the suit on emergency rule.
You remember about I think that should be the other 3 weeks ago when we discussed on the local government election. I openly congratulated the winners, and even prior to that election, I encouraged people to go and vote. And finally, the election came, had gone. I didn't personally go place to place to observe the election, but I was simply listening to radio, you know, tuning about 2-3 radio stations, listening to their reports and all that. And that election had finished. When we came here to discuss it, I said, let those who feel offended go to court. You know why I made that statement? There is a limit to what I know. I accept that. So the things I don't know, as they go to court, they'll begin to unravel. just as this one now. Look at the judgment of, look at the statement of Justice Jumbo, Stephen Jumbo, that the sole administrator didn't conduct the election.
Mm-hmm. And when you now analyze it critically,
yes,
you will find it difficult to fault. It was RISEC that conducted the election and not the sole administrator.
So the statement of Justice Jumbo is opening our eyes more, and not just our eyes, the eyes of Rivers people, the eyes of Nigerians, because it is good that we are learning. One bad thing that happened to us humans is that sometimes what we know is the enemy of what we don't know. And that can only happen when you refuse to let go of what you know that is no longer relevant in context to the matter that is on the table. So, as it stands now, the statement of this judge, pending the hearing that shall come up on October, because I'm eagerly waiting for that day. I'm eagerly waiting for October 8th, because I was still listening. If I have my way, I wouldn't even mind go to court to sit down and listen to the judge. Let's see how these things will play out. Will the High Court, State High Court, come to say that the appointment of sole administrator and the election, appointment of sole administrator, appointment of RISEC chairman, and the election conducted by the RISEC is invalid? I will watch to see. Because if the election conducted by RISEC is invalid, the appointment of RISEC chairman is invalid, appointment of sole administrator is invalid, and the Supreme Court comes up tomorrow to quash it, what becomes of all this? Then what if Supreme Court comes up tomorrow to say, yes, what the High Court says is correct, or the case brought before it by the Governors Forum, PDP Governors Forum, is correct? Then it will likely authenticate the judgment of the State High Court University. But what if they say otherwise? So that is where I think that both the judges and other litigants will have to take your time, study the ground before you launch in. And not just launching in and getting disappointed at the end of the day and wasting your little resources. So let them watch their ground properly. Sorry to sound this way. Sometimes when I see the kind of politics CSO Wike play and how he strategizes things, it surprises me. I don't know who they give and sense. I don't know how he manages some of this, because when you look at the way the whole thing happened, first, Supreme Court nullified the election, the October 5th election of 2024, and a new plan began. And I will be wondering how this man will sit down alone, or maybe with 2 or 3 persons, and they'll begin to plot the graph. And at the end of the day, you see the kind of massive campaign these people carried out during prior to the election, this August 30 election, the level of campaign they carried out. And I was like, who are you campaigning to? It's carry go, why campaigning? But they had to campaign so that you won't fault them that they didn't campaign. They just emerged. It is now difficult to say that these people were merely selected.
They came in through the back door.
Yeah, it is difficult because they came openly to tell Rivers people, we want to contest, since we don't have any sitting elected chairman in the local government, and the law says that there must be sitting elected chairman before fund can be released to them outside the emergency rule period. And they came openly to say, we want to do this, and people saw them. If you don't meet them on the road, you meet them in the market. If you don't meet them in the market, you meet them in the square, wherever they are doing their campaign and the things like that. And at the end of the day, election held. That I didn't vote or anybody did not vote cannot stop election from holding. It held and perhaps counted, and winners emerged.
Right.
So it is now left for us to see how we cooperate with the people. Especially now that court is giving, because from the body language, everybody already know where the court is tilting to. From the body language of the statement of the judge, everybody already know where the thing is tilting to. So why continuing a struggle when you see that already you are about 70-80% in the losing side?
All right.